Right, so we have 23 days to go till Brexit, and there are a lot of groups and campaigns from the Remain side that are trying their best to stop this from happening. One group is the Liberal Democrats. You remember the Lib Dems, right? The party that went from being pointless to being angry and pointless. Now, I personally think they've gone too far this time. We thought it was bad when, after the 2016 EU referendum, they became the party of a second referendum, or the people's vote. And then we thought they went really too far a couple of months ago when Swinson became their new leader and changed the policy from having a second referendum to completely revoking Article 50 and cancelling Brexit altogether. But no, they've gone too far now. You know what they're doing? They're using our online footprints on the internet, every single voter, to essentially find out what they think, what they feel, what they get up to in life, to find out how they would potentially be voting in the future. And then what they do is they basically rate every single voter, sort of like what the Chinese government are doing to their people. The Lib Dems are using data to profile every voter in the UK and give you a score. The party is categorizing voters and using a sophisticated computer model to generate the scores. Well, hello China. This includes which party they will vote for in the next election and whether they are a Remainer or Leaver. The percentage ratings, there are at least 42 in total, although the identity of only 37 are known, estimate whether someone voted Leave or Remain in the 2016 EU referendum and predict how they would vote if there was a second poll in 2019. The system, which uses a sophisticated computer model to generate the scores, also assesses personal outlooks, given a percentage to likelihood of being a pragmatic liberal. Pragmatic liberal. Well, that means I can't vote for the Lib Dems because, pragmatic? Really? This is an example of a voter who has received a score and rating by the lovely Liberal Democrats' sophisticated computer model. This guy apparently is likely to vote for the Brexit Party by 22%. And 20% Conservative, so good one. But jokes aside, this is serious stuff because a lot of lawyers have raised concerns about the way they're practicing this method and whether it's actually lawful. Data protection law prohibits the processing of special categories of personal data, including data on political affiliation, but grants political parties an exemption as long as there is substantial public interest. However, data protection experts warned that the Liberal Democrats' automated profiling fell into a legal grey area and could be challenged by the data watchdog, which is currently investigating political parties' use of data. Well, we'll have to wait and see how this investigation actually ends, because I'm quite personally concerned about the way they're gathering data. But some good news for the Lib Dems this week. Yesterday they had another defection to the Liberal Democrats. Heidi Allen. Now, I don't know if you remember Heidi Allen. She was the MP for the Conservative Party who defected to, she left the party, became independent, then joined the Change UK party, then left that party and created a new party called the Independents, and then now left that party. You know what, let's just look at the list. Yes, in June 2017, Heidi Allen was elected as a Conservative. February 2019, she defected to the Tickers, the independent group, and then became the Change UK. May 2019, she left Change UK and founded the Independents. And now September 2019, she has joined the Liberal Democrats. Now, the Liberal Democrats are going around saying that, oh, look at us, we're increasing the number of MPs in Parliament. Well, reality, 36% of the Lib Dem MPs right now in Parliament having been elected as Liberal Democrats. And they are refusing to have a by-election so people could actually give them a mandate. Do you know why? Because they know that they will lose. But a lot of people are wondering why and how the Lib Dems have moved so radically, even further towards Remain and to the left. And there are a number of links that have been discovered recently between the Lib Dems, Swinson, and the European Union. This is Swinson's husband and former Liberal Democrat MP, Duncan Hames. He works for a company called Transparency International UK. And on their website, they actually state that they have received 3.5 million euros from the European Union. Something that Swinson has failed to declare when it comes to her parliamentary duties. Now, there's a lot of dodgy links between the Lib Dems, Jo Swinson's husband, and the whole family with the European Union, and she's failed to actually declare the conflict of interest. And the fact that she's now changed the Lib Dem policy from even having a second referendum to completely cancelling Brexit, she wants to make sure that they stay in the EU so they keep getting funding from the EU. But there's another name that keeps popping up in this circus, and that's George Soros. We all know George Soros. He has enough money in the world to create his own European Union on the side, and he is one of the biggest backers of the whole Remain campaign. He has now been linked financially to Jo Swinson's family. This is their financial statement, and there is a section, Open Society Policy Centre, that has given Jo Swinson's family £167,000. Now, Open Society belongs to George Soros. Now, a lot of people are wondering why none of this has been mentioned in the mainstream media. Well, for the same reason that they're not even talking about other biases when it comes to the establishment and the swamp. You remember Baroness Hale, the head of the Supreme Court, who decided to create a new law to essentially stop Boris Johnson's prorogation of Parliament? Well, she has a history of getting politically involved and being biased, even though she's supposed to be professional and impartial. The President of the Supreme Court has actively lobbied for certain policies, including explicitly declaring that Ireland repealing the Eighth Amendment was a reason to be cheerful, rather than the more conventional, non-political statement you would expect from such a senior judge. In a similar vein, Hale has also publicly lobbied for changes to divorce laws last year, while still being president. According to Guido Fawkes, Hale is of course entitled to her views, but it is worrying that a senior sitting judge feels able to so openly advocate her view on such a controversial issue in public. And this was her when she called to change the divorce laws in the UK. Now, as you all already know, the reason that Brexit has been difficult to deliver is because we are essentially against the whole establishment and all the powerful people who have vested interests in the European Union and the whole globalist elite mentality. But we're not giving up. The Conservative MPs are now looking to challenge the Benn Act, the Surrender Act, in the Supreme Court. Now, this is quite interesting because this would test the court's impartiality. This is Daniel Kaczynski, one of the Conservative MPs who wants to challenge Hilary Benn's Surrender Act that will force the Boris Johnson's government to send an extension letter to the EU asking for a Brexit delay. Daniel said, "Following personal meeting with barristers today, I have shared written legal advice on loopholes in the Surrender Act with colleagues. Barristers believe that we have a case to take to the courts and encouraging me to pursue, reflecting over the weekend." Now, what's interesting is that The Spectator have interviewed a senior source at Downing Street. Now, obviously, we're going to now show you the interview and what they said, but I guess you could tell who that senior source is because of the language that he's using, he or she is using. The so-called number 10 source has said that if this deal dies in the next few days, then it won't be revived. To marginalise the Brexit party, we will have to fight the election on the basis of no more delays, get Brexit done immediately. They thought that if May went, then Brexit would get softer. It seems few have learned from this mistake. They think we're bluffing and there's nothing we can do about that, not least given the way May and Hammond constantly talked tough, then folded. Now, this next section is interesting because he or she, basically indicating that they have ways to get rid of the Surrender Act. So, if talks go nowhere this week, the next phase will require us to set out our view on the Surrender Act. The Act imposes narrow duties. Our legal advice is clear that we can do all sorts of things to scupper delay, which for obvious reasons we aren't going into details about. Different lawyers see the frustration principle very differently, especially on a case like this, where there is no precedent for primary legislation directing how the PM conducts international discussions. Yeah, that was very mysterious, but very clear at the same time. So this better not be a really random bluff because it could backfire massively. They better have a plan. We will make clear privately and publicly that countries which oppose the delay will go to the front of the queue for future cooperation. Cooperation on things both within and outside EU competences. Those who support the delay will go to the bottom of that queue. This source has also made it clear that defence and security cooperation will inevitably be affected if the EU tries to keep Britain in against the will of its government. Supporting the delay will be seen by this government as hostile interference in domestic politics, and over half of the public will agree with us. Now that's what I like. Robust language. We're basically sending a huge warning to these guys. If you don't help us, basically you're interfering in our politics and we won't cooperate. Especially when it comes to our defense and armed forces, we are coming out. And especially if if you try to keep us in, we're gonna pull out anyway. Now, as we said yesterday, it's highly unlikely that the European Union would agree to Boris's new proposals. Which goes back to what a lot of people have been saying as a theory, that Boris basically just gave this new deal to buy some time for himself to focus on no deal. And on that note, a lot of you have requested a new design for t-shirts and mugs and everything else. We are now presenting our new no deal, no problem design, which you can find on t-shirts, mugs and phone cases and everything else. You could find this and the link in the description. As always, obviously we created this page, so that you guys could request any design that you want, and I'll try to make it happen and basically add it to that page. So if you have any new ideas, leave it in the comment section. And if you want to follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, you could find details down here. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell next to it, otherwise you won't be notified when I release a new video. Videos come out every day between Monday to Friday, 5:45 p.m. and we have live Q&As on Sundays, 8 p.m. I'm Tousi, and this is the fastest growing conservative Brexit channel in the UK.